Hi everyone, thank you very much for asking your questions on my community tab. I will try to answer questions about living and working in Sweden and how to get a career started in data science. So let's go ahead. Ashley is asking, how easy is it to move to Sweden to work from a different country? She lives in England but would love to move to Sweden to work. If she would move to Sweden, would she need to live there for a long time, or could she quit a full-time job in less than a year? So how does the working visa work? Also, Ashley, thank you very much for a compliment to my videos. I really appreciate those. It's really dependent on what kind of job you have and what kind of profession you have. As far as I know, mostly for careers in IT, whether that's a programmer, project manager, software developer, data scientist, analyst, data engineer, it's fairly okay, especially compared to other countries in European Union where there are a bit harder government restrictions on moving to Sweden. You need to have, for example, a degree from a university to be able to apply for a working visa. In Sweden, that's not the case. So if you're a self-taught software developer, you can move to Sweden easier than, for example, to Germany. But if you're coming from different professions that are not in this IT bubble, unfortunately, I can't provide this information. I don't know myself, and all I know from various people that I've met is that it's much harder to find here as a job if you are like a marketing specialist or maybe human resources specialist, or pretty much things that are not in IT are much harder. For the question on how does the working visa work, I am going to link down below a website where you should check all this information. It's called Migrationsverket, and it pretty much just outlines all the requirements for different visa types depending on which country you're from. I don't know how is it now after Brexit if you're from UK, and how does the visa situation work. Please check out in Migrationsverket. But in my experience, I'm not from EU. I can give a little brief information how it works. I came here with already a secured working contract, and I got a work permit for 2 years when I first came to Sweden. That's like a normal standard duration. During this 2 years, I had to work for the same employer and within the same role. So I had to be a data scientist at King. After 2 years, I got an extension, and in that case, I still had to be a data scientist, but I could change a company for which I'm working. And after those 2 more years, so after 4 years in total, I could apply for permanent residency. So then I could stop working and I could just live here. But I can't move out of Sweden, otherwise I'm going to lose my permanent residency. So after a year in this situation, I wouldn't be able to just quit my job and live here, but it may be different for you. If you're from UK, please check out the migration website. Simon, hey Anastasia, thank you for your content. Hey Simon, thank you for your thank you. I have recently moved to Stockholm with my girlfriend, and now it's time to look for a job for me. I also work in IT, but not as data scientist or programmer. I'm looking for a job as an application project manager, consultant, or requirement engineer. I'm learning Swedish every day, but it will still take me quite some time to speak it fluently. Goal end of this year. That's a really nice, ambitious goal, Simon. I really hope that works out for you. Fingers crossed. So for now, I'm looking for a job where I could speak English, or at least in the beginning. Any tips on 100 websites, companies? In my experience in IT, predominantly companies are English first. Most companies have English as their official language, but of course people speak Swedish within the offices if there are a lot of Swedes in those companies. What I recommend is finding out which companies you're interested in and which companies offer the roles that you're applying for, and checking out their website, checking out their LinkedIn pages, seeing what language they're conducting most of their communication in, because that will give you an indication of how important Swedish is for this specific company. Usually, if a job requirement states that you should provide your CV in English, that means that the company will probably be speaking mostly English. Some of the companies that do speak predominantly English in the workplace that I can list are Spotify, King, Klarna, Tink, a lot of gaming companies like Rovio, Paradox Interactive, Mojang, EA and DICE, H&M I think speaks English. Probably companies like Microsoft, SAP, Google as well have English as their predominant language in the workplace, but it depends. If you need to work with customers, for example, or if you work in sales, you might have to speak Swedish to be able to talk to customers in the Nordic areas, or maybe you even have to speak Norwegian or Danish, I don't know. If the Swedish is a requirement for the role, definitely state your current Swedish level and maybe say that your goal is to learn it as fast as you can. That probably will give you benefit when you're applying for this kind of job. Good luck! Elias is asking me in Russian. I'm going to translate that in English. And Elias, if you're watching my channel, I sort of assume that you understand what I'm saying in English, but if you don't understand my answer, please let me know in the comments and I'll try to briefly translate it to Russian. Elias is saying that he's going to potentially study a master's degree in Stockholm School of Economics, and he's interested in how students live in Stockholm and how hard is it to find your first job after foreign or abroad studies in Stockholm. He would like to do data science, but his background is not very technical, and how good you need to know Swedish when you're applying for a job. For the Swedish part, I think I sort of answered in the previous question. It's definitely an advantage if you know Swedish. There are definitely companies there you have zero, where you can get a job without like any knowledge of Swedish, and you will not use it in any of your interactions during the day. It really depends on the company. To broaden your opportunities and the spectrum of the companies that you can apply to, definitely it's great if you learn Swedish, but it's not a must. For how students live in Stockholm, honestly, I can't really provide a good overview of that, as I haven't studied in Sweden. I studied in France and I got my degree there, and it was quite easy for me to get a job in Stockholm, even though I didn't live in Sweden back then. I probably was somewhat lucky that I applied for a company that provided me the relocation benefits. It definitely was easier for me to find a job in Sweden after my degree in France than a job in France, which is a little bit counterintuitive, maybe. What I can say is that if you're studying in Stockholm School of Economics, so if you're studying in Sweden, you're maybe for 1-2 years, you have to develop your network. You need to go to career fairs, learn about different companies that are offering internship opportunities or master thesis opportunities that you'll probably have to take in the second year of your master's degree, and pretty much just do a lot of networking, meet a lot of people, try to build connections with different recruiters. If they are maybe campus recruiters, they might give you an internship first, and then it will be definitely much easier for you to either stay in the same company for a full-time job or find a role in a different company already having this internship experience working in Sweden. Next question is from Emmanuel. He is new to the field after years being a manager at a few restaurants while teaching himself. He'd done a data analytics bootcamp and now studying a technical degree in computer science. Nice. Your question is, how do you think companies would consider me or people in my position for analytics role if I'm 32? Thank you so much. First of all, legally, your age shouldn't be a problem. Companies are legally not allowed to discriminate people based on their age, race, gender, and other protected characteristics. So that shouldn't be a problem from the legal perspective. However, it really depends on how you position yourself in the market and how you kind of structure your resume, what you highlight, what do you highlight in your cover letter, how do you explain the career shift that you want to do from being a manager to being a entry-level data analyst or data scientist. If you're having a degree in a technical field or computer science degree, that's definitely a huge benefit because it kind of gives the explanation for you. But still, I would try to, if I was on your place, I would try to structure my CV so that it's clear what kind of benefits can I bring to the company that I'm applying to based on my previous experience. So kind of maybe try to incorporate the people management skills or stakeholder management skills clearly within the CV. Adding this technical background, it might help you to kind of bring the whole image together and be a more desirable candidate for some roles compared to the other candidates. It could be a challenge if you are not studying to kind of go into the junior roles, junior data scientist or data analyst, because very often companies tend to focus on recent graduates for those. But yeah, if you are a recent graduate, maybe that won't be a problem. Next question. Hi Anastasia, my name is Jordan. Great fan of your channel. Thank you very much, Jordan. You have a question about career track. You just finished your master's degree in data science and recently accepted an offer for a junior data analyst in Stockholm. Do you think it's a good start as a junior data analyst? you feel like you might have undervalued yourself? There are two parts of this question. So first of all, the junior part of the role that probably you were referring to, this is definitely a good start for the master's degree recent graduate, especially if you haven't had a lot of previous experience or maybe not a lot of internships. Most of the companies would hire you as a junior data scientist or data analyst. Most of the companies look for kind of broader business understanding skills and stakeholder management and communication skills in regular positions of a data scientist that's not junior anymore. So their assumption is probably that you will be learning those skills throughout your journey within the company, and you might get promoted within a year or two to a regular data analyst or data scientist role. So don't worry for the title. Depends though how much you're paid. There is like a range of pay you can get as a junior data scientist or data analyst. I'm gonna link up there a video that I've done on the data science pay. The second part of your question is though about a little discrepancy that I see here. You say that you have a degree in data science, however, the role that you're talking about is data analyst. And then it really depends on the kinds of responsibilities you will have as a junior data analyst, whether they're meeting your expectations or not. If your degree was mostly in technical, machine learning, statistics, research-oriented data science, then junior data analyst role probably will be more focused on data analysis, talking to stakeholders, working with project managers, providing pretty much baseline analytical overview of a product or service that the company is offering. If you're happy with that, then that's great. And definitely you're going to get to learn a lot about how is it to work with data within a company. But after some time, maybe it will worth for you to look for a different role that's more focused on something that you were interested in during your degree. Next question is from Gustavo. Thank you for your content. Thank you very much for your comments. You don't really have any questions, but you're interested in tips about master degrees for pursuing data science. I have a little comment on that. You don't have to have a degree in data science to be a data scientist. There are a lot of examples of different other degrees. There are mathematics, statistics, or computer science heavy that are useful when you're applying for data science roles. There are plenty of people coming from like physics background or industrial engineering background to just be data scientists, work as data scientists. The crucial part is that you cover the basis, so statistics, mathematics, programming, and some area of being able to do research-oriented work, derive insights from data, and see where you can get the value to the product or to the company in that data. Next question is from Nisa. Nisa, thank you very much for a compliment. You are interested in at what age or which year in college would I recommend to start looking for intern jobs? This is a really interesting question, and it kind of depends a lot on your situation, whether you need to have a paid job to be able to pay for your tuition or not. If you don't have to have a paid job, I would recommend you focusing in the first few years on figuring out what you're interested in and what you like, what kind of projects you're most excited about, whether that's software development part of data science or statistics or analytics or hypothesis testing or machine learning. Just do as many things as you can to figure out what kind of drives you in this area. I definitely recommend having a few internships under your belt before you're finishing your degree, because that really helps with applying for entry-level jobs in data science. Most likely in the last 2 years, it's really good to have internships, and also it really helps to have a master thesis in a nice company where you can see yourself staying in the future, because that's one of the best ways to kind of ease it in the full-time job and full-time career when you're doing your master thesis in a company that you're really interested in, building connections, networking within the company, and then potentially getting an offer to stay there. Makram asks me, what certificate or online courses in data science do I think are the best? There are a few courses that I really liked, but I've never done a full data science specialization, because I did masters and then I went straight to the job and I learned a lot on the job. The main thing that I think is important when you look at those courses is to see whether it's covering the basis that you need to work as a data scientist, and that would be programming. It has to have some level of SQL, because SQL will probably be the programming language you use the most as a data scientist. And then you can choose between Python and R. In most cases and most companies, it's kind of interchangeable. People can use both, so it's good to have good deep knowledge of one of those languages and then some shallow understanding of how the other language works, so that you could read other people's code and maybe reuse it for your projects. The second area is math background for statistics. So there goes your exploratory data analysis, probability theory, statistics, hypothesis testing. Learn your distributions, learn different statistical approaches like frequentist or Bayesian, and learn how to reason around why in some cases you need one, in other cases the other. The third area is more of like a machine learning focus, mathematics, and could be computability, linear algebra, discrete mathematics, analyzing graphs, so graph theory, regression models, and so on. And the fourth area, which I haven't seen being really taught in any of the courses, is business acumen and understanding of the product, understanding of like design theory, working or understanding how would it go to work with different other people who work on building products, how to collaborate with like data engineers, product managers, designers, software developers. This is the part that's really crucial, that is kind of lacking from all the courses that I've seen, and the one that will actually help you to get the job rather than the kind of pure knowledge of mathematics, statistics, and programming. There are a few courses on Coursera that are commonly quite known for data science. So it's a data science specialization from Johns Hopkins University. It covers a lot of the bases, including cleaning and processing data, understanding how to store data a little bit, doing a capstone project, I think, some parts of machine learning, some parts of statistics, programming in R. So that one potentially is a good one to kind of go through, but I wouldn't say that if you get a specialization or a course certificate and you put it on your LinkedIn page, it will be like a guarantee that you can get a job. It's really important to be able to understand how to use all the things that you learn in those courses for the actual real world problems and projects that will arise in the business of the company that you're going to be working in. So having those kind of side projects or non-profit contributions to maybe some statistical packages for R or Python and GitHub, or just doing your own interest kind of small project that you're really excited about is really important alongside the courses that you can learn from. So when you're looking for a course, focus on seeing whether it has programming, mathematics, more advanced mathematics, maybe from machine learning, and some idea of how to build machine learning models, and maybe a part of like being able to collaborate with others on building projects or products and working together, because that's also really important for your future work. Next question: do data scientists use web applications, custom-made ones, or for example for visualization, maybe a graphical user interfaces instead of command line? Great question. Actually, it gives me an idea of how hard is it to understand what's the regular workflow of a data scientist working in a company. Definitely data scientists use a lot of web applications. They are the ones that are provided like by bigger companies for, yes, as you mentioned, data visualization like Tableau or Looker or Data Studio from Google. There are web applications to write queries in the browser instead of writing them in command line. For example, well, I mostly worked with the Google BigQuery, so that's the one I'm mostly familiar with, but there are plenty of others. There's Amazon products and Apache products that you can also use as a web application, and there are a lot of custom-made web applications within bigger companies with like a bigger set of data scientists and more data maturity. Usually you want to build some things on your own because out-of-the-box solutions are not really tailored for your needs. For example, if you need to build like a significance calculator for your specific data for hypothesis testing, if you run a lot of A/B tests, then you would build something in Python or R or TypeScript or other languages that can be used in this company. So you use it at work. That's actually a really good point. Some data scientists or some data analysts that I work with are really interested in software development. So they are really excited to build those applications, and that can be a part of your job as a data scientist more than like doing research or analysis. You can be focused on building a platform that analyzes A/B tests, or building a nice platform for stakeholders to use and manipulate data that you have in a company in a visual way as a web application as well. Next question I really like from Renata. She asks, so far, what's the hardest obstacle I've faced regarding my professional life, and what would I say to all the young girls interested in STEM disciplines? Really good question. It made me reflect on kind of privilege and luck that I've had throughout my career, because I realized that my biggest obstacle is actually my own self and my own mindset. And I understand that for a lot of people that won't be the same just because they're in a much more challenging situation, whether that's a lack of resources or lack of ability to access high education, or whether that's working or living in a society where you're more restricted as a minority. I've been quite lucky to be supported throughout my career by really nice people, and have had very few interactions where I would feel discriminated. So I understand that, and definitely those are not the hardest obstacles that I've had throughout my career. What I'd say is the hardest obstacle is my own mindset of doing things that are bringing value only. That's really good approach usually when you work in the company, because you are measured based on how much value you deliver to your stakeholders and to the company and to the product. But it's a very bad approach for your own learning and growth, both as a professional and just as a human being, I guess. I really like another YouTuber, Simone Giertz. I hope I didn't mispronounce that. She's a queen of shitty robots, and if you don't know her, check her out. She has a fantastic channel, and she did a TED Talk on why you should do or build useless things. And I think this is amazing sentiment around how creativity and learning comes into our lives, and how we can't be as creative or innovative if we don't cut ourselves slack and only focus on being productive or being like doing things that have high utility. How does it become an obstacle for me? In data science career, you have to constantly learn and develop really innovative and new solutions to the problems, and it's really easy to get stuck in a situation where you're solving problems in the same way just because that's how you know how to do it, and that's how you know you'll do it the fast and most reliable way, so you can bring value as soon as possible, but it limits you from learning new things or discovering new areas or seeing new opportunities. What I'm trying to do to kind of stop doing that is just like doing random things, doing side projects, figuring some of them are also still useful for me, some can be some completely not useful, expanding my horizons, like reading books that are not valuable for my career, something that's just drives creativity or sets me in the reflective or thinking mode, maybe like hobbies that have nothing to do with data science, because overall it improves my ability to think wider, I'd say, rather than focus on a more narrow being super efficient and bringing a lot of value. There are other things like just learning a tool or programming language, or working on some project with people that could be really challenging due to external factors, but external factors I discovered are usually the ones that you kind of know how to approach, but when you have an internal blocker that doesn't help you to grow, that's much harder to address because it requires reflection and taking time for yourself. The advice that I would say to all young girls interested in technical disciplines is to, first of all, figure out whether that's for you, whether that's really something you're interested in, and not just because it's fancy and cool and well paid. I mean, definitely those are really important, especially the pay and the ability to work from pretty much anywhere else. It's a really good benefit of working in tech roles especially. But if you're just doing it for that, I've seen a lot of people that burn out and feel unhappy at their jobs because they don't have the drive to learn and work on themselves extra in their profession. So take your time, figure out what you like in the different technical disciplines there are. Do a lot of different things, try out mechanical engineering, build a robot as the example of Simone Giertz, or do some maps, try to build a website, try to analyze some data from somewhere, try to visualize some data. Just like try out a lot of different things to see where you kind of catch that drive and interest in. That's really important. And the second advice that I really like to give to people that ask for my mentorship or support in learning towards data science, that I think a lot of people try to learn first and implement that knowledge later. And usually a really good idea is to learn by doing. There are definitely some cases where you need the theoretical background to be able to start doing something, but what gives you like the biggest drive and the biggest interest is when you have a problem that you want to solve first, and then you're trying to solve that problem using the tools that you have, like building, I don't know, an application or doing something that you're interested in. Because when you're learning by doing, this is the easiest way to figure out what you need to learn to be able to complete the project or go to the next step. And that's also a good example that shows how your work will be within the company. So don't just try to do a whole course that takes half a year first and then think about how you can apply those learnings and this knowledge. Do something. Thank you very much for your questions. I really appreciate all the nice comments that you left on my community tab. Hope this was useful and this was interesting. In general, I'll try to answer all the relevant questions that I see under my videos, but sometimes I just really don't know what to answer to this question, or I think the question is very easily Googleable, and then I don't see why I should be the person that would Google that for you. I'll try to answer all the questions that have like a really good specific question with some background information, so it's easier for me to understand where you're coming from and I can tailor my answer towards that. I wanted to address another question that I received also on this community tab and under some of my videos that are related to my personal life. Here I was asked when I'm planning to get married, and I want to say that I want to build this boundary and I don't appreciate personal questions. Honestly, this kind of question I wouldn't accept from my mom, so definitely wouldn't accept that from a stranger on the internet. I don't want to see questions about my personal life. It's out of scope here on this channel. I'm not going to talk about it, and I'm going only to talk about my career and professional life. I hope everyone accepts these boundaries. I think if we're respectful of each other's boundaries and are not prying on anyone's personal or private life, everyone's lives can be much nicer and better. Yeah, but overall, I'm really happy to receive all the nice comments where you say how my videos are useful. Really something that helps me to kind of go forward with making more of those. So thank you very much and hope this was useful, and have a nice day.